Right, so not only does the prisons cost a lot of money, but I mean, in the past, prisons and prison labor has been very much utilized, and it is still today. I mean, a lot of companies today utilize prison labor. I'm not sure how much of this I'd be able to change or improve, but if it's not as widespread as I'd like it to be, then I guess that's my idea for it. Before, I believe I could be completely fucking wrong about this, so I apologize in advance. But I believe the prison labor system used to be a lot more utilized until the corporations decided that it was unfair to compete with that type of labor. So basically, what it was is companies were basically losing money because prison labor was just so cheap, right? Nowadays, that's not really so big of a problem, only because of all the outsourced labor to other countries and whatnot. So, two birds, one stone, I would like to propose that we offer incentives for companies that bring back outsourced labor into our prison systems. And I know it would take a lot of advancements to be able to keep them separated, to keep them working for these corporations and whatnot. But I honestly, I think it's really worth it because, for one, if we can get labor back into our country and get the money to stay here, and not only get the money to stay here, but to go to, I don't want to say profit our prison system, but yeah, basically profit our, not so that people can make profits for it, but so that we can use those profits for rehabilitation programs, other sorts of things that can, just like the prostitution chapter, just to give them training, to teach them how to do things on the outside so that they can actually have real skills when they get out there. Because a lot of the rehabilitation programs that we have might not necessarily work so great. And a lot of the programs and things that we train them to do in prison might not necessarily benefit them on the outside too much. Basically, what happens is most of the training that they receive in prison will only help them get like remedial type of jobs. If they know they're going to make more money doing illegal activities, why would they do their remedial jobs if they know they're just going to get back in prison? Or if they're going to make more money doing that, or it's really just a cost benefit analysis that they do in their heads. So it's really beneficial to us to give them training on certain things like advanced carpentry and construction, not just, okay, go work on this construction site or whatever, but I mean literally teach them to like build houses and build other things, or mechanics, teach them how, or build Harleys. I've heard that was a program that they have. Work on cars, all sorts of things that you can learn about different types of vehicles, how to repair them, and that's good work. It really is. It's tough work. It's a very, very good skill to have, and it's for the most part, it's I don't want to say always going to be around, only because some of my other chapters kind of eliminate that too. Sorry, but just giving them training, giving them access to education, not so much pay for it entirely 100%. If you end up working out a prison labor system to where you can actually use your inmates to not only get that outsourced labor and to make money, but also to obviously have them do most of the maintenance that run the facility and whatnot, so to lower your costs in that manner. And I mean, by maintenance, I don't mean like big stuff, like security stuff, because that would be fucking stupid, but because then, yeah, you know what I mean. Anyway, if you can get it to run itself and actually turn a little bit of a profit, you can turn all that money into, well, basically, if you let the prison system pay for itself, which is hopefully what you can achieve with technology and the outsourced labor, then you'd basically double the education budget in your state, right? And like I said before, with the little teeter totter of education in prison, if you got prison to pay for itself and then raise the amount of money that you spend on education, then you would have less people going into prison, right? Anyway, that's a theory. That's how it should work. So hopefully that is how it works. Another one of the problems with prisons, like I said before, is kind of those people are eventually going to come back into the community. And yes, we have probation and parole. We have other types of services to, I guess, help them transition, but it's a very like rickety, kind of improvised type of systems that we have in place, but it kind of is ish. And I'm so sorry, probably offending a lot of people right now, but the prisoner reentry programs that they have are, they're just not that great. They're not very widespread, and I think we can do a lot better to improve on the situation of that. One of the ways I think we can do that is to have a, I guess, double layer prison system. And this might sound kind of funny, but I think there should be an inner prison and an outer prison. And instead of having so many people on parole or maybe not necessarily probation, just because that's a pre-prison type of thing, but parole definitely afterwards. Basically, you have your inner prison that just like normal prisons today, you go there, you serve your time and whatnot. But then there's the outer layer of prison services where it would be more of a transition, less security, and it would basically be a transition step to where you wouldn't release the people directly into the community, because a lot of times people serve their prison terms and they aren't eligible for early release or anything because of bad behavior. They just did their time and they're fucking gone, and that's a bad thing to just have those people go directly into the community. Hopefully the second layer is somewhere that, I mean, you'd have housing, food, services, all that other type of stuff, and you'd be able to provide the prison with services that are fueled by the labor of the exiting prisoners to, for one, cut down on your costs. Like, you can do farming and other type of things. You can give them access to materials that they wouldn't be able to have access to in the prison just because of safety reasons and stuff like that. And you can give them like foreman positions back in the prison as supervisors for some of the other labor jobs they have within. But like I said, farming and other type of support services in the second layer to kind of keep them semi-structured, going from like completely structured to semi-structured to then eventually moving out in society to an unstructured. And I think that transition for them would be very helpful. And not only that, but for us. So the one, we'd be able to keep an eye on them. We know where they live. We'd be able to still keep them a little bit isolated, but not so much. I mean, they could still go out, have visitors come in. I wouldn't personally want to go there, but whatever. If they wanted to, or they can go visit their families, it'd be a lot less structured for them, a lot more open, and yet they'd still be close to that environment to help them out, help them continue their rehabilitation services. If they didn't finish their addiction, if they didn't finish their addiction cure program that they might be in, or any kind of service that they might not have finished, or any kind of training that might not necessarily 100% be available until completion in the prison or something like that. But I think a double layer thing is really good for that. And I have another idea that can be in use for in prisons, but it's kind of defeats the purpose of putting it out there and telling everybody about it, because it's not really a trick. It's kind of a psychological thing that I can't really explain, only because if everybody knew about it, it would kind of give it away, I think. If not, I mean, if the prison structure system wants to contact me about it and hear my ideas, if they like these, then I would be more than happy to share it with them. But I think this kind of program would be very successful, and it would cater to a lot more of the newer generations going into prison, and it would help them out a lot. So let me just sum it all up. If you take a look back into the drugs, prostitution, gambling, and you attack that from many different angles, and on this side you attack that from many different angles, use both of these systems to boost the economy, to lower crime with the exiting amount of criminals and the better treatment programs and whatnot, and helping the economy, like, because you're selling the drugs, you're having the prostitution, make a profit for the states and the cities, and you're taking back the money from outsourcing back labor into the prisons, and you're giving them incentives and whatnot. Both of these chapters, I think, would greatly improve not only the crime rate, hopefully would lower drastically lower, like I'd say by at least half, if not more. And prison rates, prisonization rates, arrest rates, all that other stuff, all that would lower. Recidivism rates, hopefully all that stuff would lower. Money spent on prisons, education system would go up, all this other good benefits. And hopefully all that money would enable us to be able to invest a lot more in the next chapter, which is energy independence. And a lot of people talk about energy independence, renewable sources of energy, blah, blah, blah. But it's really difficult to start up those programs. Obviously, one, when you have corrupt programs that just cheat you out of your money. I'm not going to name any names, but you really need that financial foundation to be able to create programs like that and to make them successful. And one of the ways to get this country back on its feet is to build a strong foundation. And I think these first two chapters leading into the third one, and then the third one completely, would definitely give us that foundation and get us on our feet and get it going in the right direction. So I kind of forgot like an entire part that I wanted to talk about in this chapter, so I apologize. And that part is the death penalty. Now, I know a lot of people, like I said before, and I know I say like I said before, and I'm really sorry about that, but it just happens. So, people want criminals to go away. They want to be punished. They want, they want, basically, for lack of a better word, they want vengeance. And unfortunately, that's not necessarily what a civilized society should be based on. Now, don't get me wrong, I would for sure want vengeance on someone that took one of my loved ones away or something like that. But it's kind of along the same lines of, when you're in a relationship or something like that and someone's trying to tell you it's like no 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 that person's bad for you, it's horrible, and you're like no no no, they love me, blah blah blah. And I know you're probably trying to think what the fuck's going on, but it it helps to get an outside perspective and to help you make more informed decisions, because when you are involved in something emotionally, it affects your judgment very drastically. And now, how that ties back into this is that when you have a loved one or someone like that that is taken from you, and they know who did it, they have them in custody, and they're battling to get the death penalty. One thing that a lot of people tend to forget is that whoever did whatever it is that they did is also someone's child, someone's husband, wife, daughter, son, cousin, grandson, granddaughter, niece, nephew, whatever. There somebody out there cares or cared about that person at one point. And one thing that people don't really realize is that the United States is one of the only. Not only is it the largest, one of the largest countries that has a percentage of their population in prison, but it is also one of the only developed countries that actually still uses the death penalty. For me, that's a little embarrassing for my country. I'll say this now. I don't know if I said it before. I love this country, and the only things that I really try to avoid criticizing in any way, and I really just try to put things out there in a different perspective and try to say improvements and whatnot. But in my opinion, having things like the death penalty and just the prison overpopulation is very quite embarrassing to me as a citizen, and just morally, in my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong. If someone's coming after me and I have the choice of self-defense or this or that, then I'm probably going to kill that person to defend myself. If the circumstances allow. If I can't escape or whatnot. But that situation, though, is entirely different, because you can at that point prevent your death. It's kind of like an exchange, but when the person's already gone, there's really nothing you can do at that point. So committing that person to death is really just plain and simple vengeance. And wrath is one of seven deadly sins, and it's one of those for a reason, because it's not very good. Also, I always usually bring this up in my videos, the financial cost of that. I know it costs a lot of money to keep people in prison, but the appeals process has been very well documented that it is more expensive than just keeping someone in prison for their entire life. And with the rest of this video, hopefully making prisons pay for themselves, if you actually get a very rock solid life in prison sentence, working and working to pay for your housing and all other stuff, and it ends up being free, then it ends up to where it's not even a question. For one, it would most definitely be more cost effective, because you wouldn't have to deal with the appeals or whatever. And also, people that commit suicide, I know this is kind of a jutted out topic, I just kind of put that out there, but people that commit suicide are looking to, I believe, I've never committed suicide, but they're looking to escape the pain of life. And while I don't believe in suicide, not that I don't believe it happens, I believe that everyone has worth in some way to someone, and they can do something out there, that would give their lives meaning. That's basically their way out. And having the death penalty, I think, is an easy way out for a lot of these people. And I believe a lifetime in prison working to literally repay society would be a lot more punishment than just giving them an easy way out. That's a little bit abbreviated version. Hopefully, I mean, if you guys have comments or anything like that, just look at the statistics. It's just my opinion. And that'll do. All right, bye.